have She today from Louisville. They are fantastic. Check them out.
It's a Thursday night, you know?
Mm-hmm. Everyone's preparing for Mag Fest next weekend.
You're not kidding. That's well, or Holler of Doom this
Yeah,
weekend. That
yeah,
is also high on everybody's priority list right now.
for sure. Uh, I didn't look too much at the Holler of Doom stuff because I'm really been focused on Magfest, but like that day you all play is fucking stacked.
I mean, the entirety of Holler is pretty fucking stacked. There's a few similarities between Holler and Magbar Music Fest in that like each day, while roughly within like the heavy music or adjacent or rock music, we'll just say, kind of realm, the Saturdays are definitely the days that are leaning most into either doom or metal territory. Yeah, that Saturday is pretty much stacked from top to bottom. Um, and we're sandwiched in between about as good of a spot that you could possibly be playing after Weed Demon, which in many ways is a bummer because it's like, well, shit, how do you follow that up?
Right.
And then Crop plays after us, which, you know, we're setting the low bar for them with which to then blow it out the water because poof, Crop can't be
Like
topped.
I you say setting the low bar, but you guys are fucking great too.
You flatter me, far too kind.
Like
Appreciate it. Thank you.
like I'll tell you, everyone have been talking about you guys, and I'm like, I gotta catch them, I gotta catch them, and uh, yep, maybe it was a Stonecutters album release show at Headliners.
Hmm.
I was enthralled with the whole fucking set, like,
Thanks.
oh, holy fuck.
We we count ourselves very fortunate to have been able to be a part of that show, and so many. We've gotten to play a ton of really cool, good shows where I'm like, hell yeah. The fact that we're sharing a stage with bands of these calibers uh, makes it feel like we're doing something right. So yeah, that Stonecutter show was a lot of fun. We had a great time with that. That was my first time getting to catch Sinistrum on that show. That band's fucking sick.
Yeah,
Really
me too.
stoked to see them do stuff and hope to see them again soon. I haven't seen them in a while. I think they played maybe a Metal Monday a while back after that, but I
Yeah.
haven't seen them since then.
Yeah, I haven't seen a whole lot from them either, which it sucks because like I was talking to a buddy of mine watching them, like, holy shit, they're fucking good.
Yeah, yeah. Them. I mean, and obviously, that's no say nothing about Stonecutters, right? I
Right.
mean, shit. Again, the reason we were there at all. And those dudes, I'm really stoked to see. And obviously, we share a member with Jace, our other guitar player, Stonecutters bass
Hmm.
player. Getting to see him kind of do a separate venture and get the fulfillment there as well has been really cool. Although it is admittedly challenging when you're trying to juggle the schedules of multiple bands within multiple bands and finding like, all right, who's available these weekends and who's available on these days. Fortunately, it hasn't been too terribly hard on our
Yeah.
end to line those up, but it's definitely a consideration that we keep and make.
Yeah, you have to. It's like everyone's so busy, even outside of the bands, right? With like
Hmm.
regular life shit. And it's like, okay, what can you do? Well, I got this weekend. Ah, damn, like that was gonna be a really cool show or whatever, you know?
Yeah,
Yep.
we have always kind of had an element of that, so we're used to the scheduling conflicts. Really since the band's inception, um, two of our dudes have worked at UPS since the start of the band, and they have worked both of them initially were working like night shift, right? So they're working third, and then one of them has switched to, I think he's working first shift now, but still it's one of the, or second shift. Um, but yeah, I mean, like with two dudes having UPS schedules and how UPS handles their PTO and their vacation time and their requesting off, that's kind of been one of our things that we've just been used to tackling and having to work around and being like, well, we know that if we're going to do days multiple in a row on the road or do like a weekend run, we need to make it worthwhile, or we need to be very strategic with how and when we schedule those. So
Yeah.
that's the current like challenge that we're facing now, is being like, well, we want to get out, do some more regional stuff more frequently. How and when does it make sense for us with scheduling availability? And that's not a unique problem for us to have. Every band has that, but
Yeah.
that's the current hurdle we're trying to jump, is getting that figured out.
Yeah. Well, so let's kind of rewind for just a second here.
Hmm.
I think so. I've been in Louisville for coming up on 25 years.
Oh wow.
And since I've been here, there's always been good bands, but I feel like now the bands are, I kind of want to say better than they've ever been, but maybe it's not better. There's just more really good bands.
There's always peaks and valleys in a given scene as to, bands of note or bands of quality. And the thing that I think that's really cool about this particular moment, at least in my opinion and from what I see, is you're seeing a lot of quality bands across the scenes,
Mhm.
right? The and I mean, I'm not as familiar with like the indie rock scene or the singer songwriter scenes or the hip hop scene. I'm mostly aware of the doom and metal scene and a little bit of the hardcore scene. And it seems like in all of those scenes, though, something is going on. Something's in the water at this moment in time for the past, like, 2 to 3 years, especially. You've seen a lot of bands all kind of pop up in that post-COVID world. Not to say that pre-COVID it was a drought. We still had a bunch of really solid bands then. Um, but I think that a lot of us are all finding our footing and finding our voice simultaneously. And it's really cool to see everything kind of popping off at once.
Yeah. So what do you think? Like my opinion is partially the reason for that is the COVID and the isolation really forced people to like look inside and go, okay, what is really important, right? Because we have for so long, I feel like we've just worked our for lack of a better term, dicks in the dirt, and then like, oh, when I have some free time, I'll do this other stuff. And then COVID, right? A lot of stuff shut down. People are like, well,
Mhm.
fuck, man.
I think there's definitely an element of it for sure. Man, I don't know if I could attribute it to any one singular thing. It also could just be as simple as we're lucky, right?
Mhm.
Sometimes it's just lightning in a bottle. I mean, I used to be way more into wrestling, pro wrestling, than I am now. I still enjoy reading about it, following it, and the business, so to speak. But I mean, you look at things like the Attitude Era, and you had, this is a terrible analogy. Feel free to edit it out, but like you had all of these talents at the same place at the same time. Somehow they all aligned. You had, The Rock and Stone Cold, like two of arguably the biggest personalities in in professional wrestling ever. Somehow both generational talents showed up and were ready to work and were working at that exact same time. And then you start adding into that, and you're like, oh, you have Kurt Angle, another generational talent. Undertaker was like reinventing his character. You had Mick Foley coming in, and you had all these guys in the industry at the same time. And how did it blow up? Well, again, you just had the right people at the right place at the right time making the right decisions, and some wrong decisions for
Yeah.
sure. But
We're
yeah,
all
and I think
guilty
that
of that.
yeah, and I think that there's a similar kind of thing that might be happening here, not just in Louisville, but generally in scenes across the region, across the country.
Around the
You're seeing a
world,
lot of
actually.
yeah, you're seeing a lot of really cool stuff all happening right now. And
Yeah.
yeah, it's really exciting to be a part of that. And it is a challenge to try and get seen or get heard or kind of get in front of folks when there's so many options out there. And so, but that's part of the fun, right? Is being like, oh, I'm going to do my best, put this thing out there. And if it resonates with somebody, shit, if you've broken through the noise to 10 people, you're doing better than a lot of folk.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the truth. But there's, I guess part of that is accessibility. There's so much accessibility to music today, like people, what do we do? Put it on Bandcamp, put it on Spotify, on Apple
Hmm.
Music, and it's like an eyedropper into the ocean, you know?
Yeah,
Like, man, I hope someone listens to this.
you're
And then,
you're not wrong. The access being increased for everybody provides that interesting challenge, right? Like you just said, you are just another Stoner Doom band amongst a litany of Stoner Doom bands, all kind of vying for attention. Um, Discoverability has never been more easily, accessed, but breaking through
further
and getting
away.
on playlists or getting in front of people then has never been more difficult. So
Yeah.
if you've had any guests who have said how to do that, I would love to know. Because the only answers I've ever gotten or been able to figure out are get a PR person, which is on the list. We're like, all right, we got to start looking for PR people
Mm.
and label
Let,
support. So
let's talk next Saturday at MagFest, and I'll
yeah,
maybe I can connect you with some good PR people.
would love to hear it. We've gotten a few recommendations from some of our friends in bands that are doing the thing, real bands, air quotes. And they've given us some really good sound advice. Or at least I think it's sound advice. I guess we'll find out if it's sound advice as we put it into practice. But it's advice that I respect, and I trust them to not steer us wrong with their feedback and their input. So that's been
Yeah.
very, very cool.
Well, and I think that's the other part of like bands one getting better, right?
Hmm.
Is their circle of friends. Because
Hmm.
if you're surrounded with awesome musicians, you're gonna learn from them, and they're all gonna make you better,
Oh,
you
for
know?
sure. And I think that while we want to be friends with everybody, and we've made friends with most of the people that we've interacted with. At the same time, there's no illusion that this is a business, and there is an element of, there's only so many resources out there. There's only so many dates in a year to book shows. There's only so many venues that are willing to host shows for bands like ours. And so there's an element of competition there, and I think that that's healthy, When we see Crop play Maryland Doomfest, we're like, well, shit, that's fucking awesome. I'm super stoked for Crop, and I want them to continue to get offered shows like that and get to go play shows because people should hear that band.
Yeah.
But I'm simultaneously like, okay, how can I also go play Maryland Doomfest? Because their success drives me to want to succeed as well. And they've been supported, and they're like, hey, you guys should do like you should contact these people, or this is how we got that. And they share because they want to see us succeed,
Yeah.
because they know that if we succeed, we're gonna push them.
Yeah.
The rising tide raises all ships, and we're each pushing each other to move forward and get things out and do the fucking thing.
I'm waiting for a Crop She shirt to come out now.
I was just thinking, so we did a weekend run. It would have been last year sometime. I think it might have been actually shoot, it might have been our first like proper weekender. It was like 4 days, I want to say, maybe three. No, it was our second, but it was us and Crop. And for the flyer, I took they've kind of got two different logos. I don't know which one they're really rolling with now. I think they're rolling with their more traditional kind of logo that's the on their EP cover, the one designed by Josh Flowers from Swamp Hawk. Fantastic graphic designer. Can't recommend him enough. But their older logo that they did, I can't remember the artist's name, but it's kind of this like a little bit more rough around the edges, but it's like a symbol. And it spells out crop in this kind of stylized way, but there's this giant circle in the center where the
Oh,
O is in crop.
it's
And
is
yeah,
it's done kind of in this crop circle kind of style.
yeah, kind of like that. Well, so I took that O and I just dropped the she kanji in there for the flyer, because it was like the two of us were the headliners of this run. We were going on it together. And so I was looking at that. Braun had sent it over to me, or had mentioned or tagged me in a post about it. And I was looking at it. I'm like, you know, that could be a fun collaborative shirt to do. Is that crop she logo together, and especially with like the tour poster goes this old Dore print. I think it was Gustave Dore. I can't remember who it was, but it was this old print that would work well as a screen printed, given that it's a print shirt design with that crop she hybrid logo. So the dual shirt might be closer than you think. I got to talk to
Mm.
Braun. You're the first to hear about this outside of my brain. So uh,
So
if
let
Braun watches this, hit me up, Braun. Let's talk.
he will. And let's not stop at the shirt. Let's do a crop she split and mix it with the shirt.
Man, that's the split has been on the radar. We've been in talks about doing a split with Crop and one other band, two other bands rather, a few times, and it's always just been like the stars haven't aligned. We've either had tracks that like we've either been asked when we have absolutely no music to go record, or we've been asked when we're like the music we have is already spoken for other things, and so we would have to write new music. So it's either we have nothing or we have stuff but we can't use it, and it's just like fuck. So I'm hoping that after we record this album that we're about to go do, um, that I can hold myself accountable and be like, okay, we need to write like a song, just one. And this one song can just sit over here on the side, and that's going to be the split song.
Or, you
So
know,
yeah,
what if you guys just covered each other's songs?
that's also been talked about. We did our first covers EP. I want to say it was shortly after the first album. It was like at the beginning of COVID, and we were getting together and practicing because we were like, I mean, like we'll keep our circle small. So we were still getting together and practicing, and I was like, man, like you guys want to do like a covers EP? And the boys kind of were just like, yeah, I mean, like you pick the songs and teach us, like let's do it. And so yeah, so we self-recorded that covers EP with the intention, and on Bandcamp, it's covers volume 1, implying that there would be a volume 2. There hasn't been yet, but in my head, the two covers volume options to go to would be a like 90s covers, just given that that's like the era that I roughly grew up in,
Mhm.
and also have gone back to and been like, oh shit, there's a lot of good stuff here, as well as a covers EP of nothing but like our friends' bands and bands that we've played with. So yeah, covering Crop, covering Blind Scryer, covering Stagecoach Inferno, those kinds of things would be really fun. Especially if it were bands where it's like, yeah, like Stagecoach, I could see how we'd make it work, but that's not a band that if you asked me when we started the band, what are you going to cover? Wouldn't have said Stagecoach.
Right. Well, I think that would be a really cool idea to have, a bunch of, I'll say locals, right? Just a
Hmm.
bunch of friends
Yeah,
covering each other's fucking bands.
it's a great idea, and we've messed around with some songs already. We've been given I'll go on the record. Blind Scryer, Trent gave us. He said, "You guys can have that song. We don't want it." That song 10-Year Bender off of their full length.
Mhm.
I love that track. I think it's so good. Second favorite track off of that album. And I always gave him shit because they stopped playing it live. And I was like, when are you guys going to play 10-Year Bender? And finally one day Trent just goes, you guys could just have that song. That's y'all's. You can just have it. And so I came back to practice that next week, and I was like, all right, boys, let's learn this. And so we started learning it, and it's like one of our like warm up slash practice tunes. We'll just kind of like play through it haphazardly. I can't play it and sing it. That's the real challenge. So either I have to like do the 90s guitar player thing, the Chris Cornell of like not playing and just doing vocals for a bit and then
Yeah.
playing where I can. It's just those vocal patterns, unless we rearranged it or did some weird stuff with it. But playing it like normal or how it's recorded, I can't do the vocals and play it. The riff is just too disparate. And Blair's vocals are so good, and you want to
Yeah.
do them justice. So,
Yeah. Blair's got tremendous voice, dude.
mhm.
Man. So I just want to touch on Legalized Lex for a minute.
Yeah,
What were
what a
your
time.
thoughts with that? Yes.
Man, what were my thoughts with Legalized Lex? I'm pulling up the lineup now because you've put me on the spot and I'm having trouble like really crystallizing the whole totality of that lineup.
Oh yeah,
Um, one because it was so fantastic. And two, because man, that day was a blur, as I'm sure it was for basically everybody
yeah.
who was there, because we're all just like, ugh. Um, Braun, and I'm sure as your listeners know, Braun from Crop was kind of the mastermind behind Legalized Lex. And man, I can't speak highly enough about Braun's um, passion for getting this off the ground and hustling to make it happen and hustling to make it the success that it was. Al's Bar was a great host for it. We lucked out so severely, and it was so good having two stages, one indoor, one outdoor, and with the weather holding off and being pleasant and kind of overcast for a lot of the day.
Yeah.
Man, just wonderful. Storm Toker provided the backline for the outdoor stage, which was such a monumental help. So anybody listening that books festivals, backline, 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 backline. You should already know that, but if you don't, backline. And then Crop provided the indoor backline, which again, making changeovers flawless, seamless. I think by the end of the night, we might have been behind schedule a smidge, but like the amount by which we were off schedule was relatively minimal.
I
And
think, I really think the only time that it got off schedule is when Blessed Black went to take the stage
mhm.
and Jake's head had blown.
Oh, geez, I missed that. They played right after us, which admittedly, maybe that was part of it. Maybe we were playing longer. Anyway, so feel free to like or to comment in to email in to us or hit us up on Instagram and say, yeah, I was at Legalized Lex and it got behind because you guys played one too many songs.
Mm-mm.
Um, but which we would be, that's very weird for us. Normally we play too few songs is the
No,
general vibe,
like
but
I'm telling you, as they took the stage and as they were ready to go, like Jake's head, I think if I remember right, Jake's head worked great while they
uh-huh.
did their little quick sound check,
Yeah.
and then they went to go in the first song and bloop, it was dead.
Dude, that sucks. That's fucking terrible because that band's so good. And
Yeah,
they're a band that's super professional. They know their shit. They have been in the business. They understand how shit works. They've been very kind to us. We played with them. It would have been like what 2021, maybe 22. It was around Ohio Doomed and Stoned for that year, and we played with them at at Green Lantern in Lexington, and they kind of like unprompted were like, hey, like we know you guys are doing a run. If it saves you guys time, do you just want to use our back line so you don't have to unload your stuff every night? And I was like, yes, that sounds great. That is super kind of you to like offer to do unprompted. So yeah, they've been very, very cool to us, and I appreciate the kindness um and support that they've shown because that band
yeah,
is good, and you
they're
you like it whenever good bands support you. Again, it
that.
makes you feel good.
Well, that's it. But I think, same thing with like Legalized Lex. I feel like everyone helped everyone.
Hmm.
It ran so smooth. The
Hmm.
bands, like every band crushed it,
Yeah,
from the start of Period Sex to, the end
to the
of
end with Howling Giant, right?
yeah.
Yeah,
No, Howling Giant didn't headline.
oh, that was Swamp Hawk, wasn't it?
Hmm.
They closed it out. That's right. I totally forgot. Man, you want to talk about another band that gets it and have been, you know, day one homies. It's Swamp Hawk. Those guys. I one of my biggest regrets. I started grabbing flyers and posters for shows we played late. Like I didn't think to do it until way into our existence. Um, and so I don't have the flyer or poster for our first album release show, which Swamp Hawk and Blind Scryer played. And that's like one of my, I could just go print it. I'm sure I could find it somewhere in like a decent enough quality to get a 8.5 by 11. But man, the Swamp Hawk is another band where like, the first time we saw them or the first time we saw them was at this like mini festival in Lexington. At the time, it was Best Friends Bar. Now it's the Fish Tank. But it was called, it wasn't Clairvoyance at the time. Got Doom Days of Summer. That's what it was. And the lineup for that show, if you go back and look at it, it's got a number of bands where you're just like, holy shit, like, yeah, like you got to see this band that would then go on to be really awesome and like blow up, like in this tiny room, very intimate setting for like nothing. It was like that show is way underpriced for the quality of bands that were playing. But yeah, we saw Swamp Hawk there. Another band where like they messaged us, we're like, hey, you guys play right after us. Do you just want to use our cabs? And I was like, yes, because at the time we were way young as a
Hmm.
band. This was maybe year 3 of us, and we didn't figure shit out until like damn near 5 years into existence. Four if we're being aggressively kind. Um, and so this was well before that. And yeah, for them to have reached out and been like, hey, this is a thing that you can do. Again, they set a good example for us that I try and emulate whenever we can.
Hell yeah. Well, and that's, I think that means the world for, to all the bands really. If you can help someone out,
Yeah,
like, hey, you guys are getting ready to play, use our fucking back line. Like, we're
yeah.
totally cool. Like, really, we don't have to like deal with all that shit.
Trying to get gear around is like maybe the second most frustrating thing about being in a band is figuring out the gear situation. And so if you can do things that will make it easier for yourself, but also other folks, man, that's the way to be. And most bands and most people seem to get that, which I have found to be really refreshing and cool in this scene within like the like heavy stoner rock, stoner doom kind of world. There seems to be more chill folks. There's some not chill folks, but generally speaking, folks are chill and we all want to help each other out because at the end of the day, it's about, having a good time and playing rock and roll music. And
Yeah.
what more could you have? A buddy of mine, he uh Steven Casciato from Baptized, the other band I play in, or one of the other bands I play in. We were talking about something and an issue we were having with some other personalities. And he just goes, man, it sounds like they're trying really hard to not have a good time. And I was like, man, what a perfect way to like just encapsulate that. Like we're all trying to just have a good time. And so just do things that make that able to be facilitated. We should all be just trying to have a good time. And if you are somehow making it more difficult for folks to have a good time, reevaluate and just make sure that that is in fact the path you want to go down. It might be. We've definitely gone down that path before where we're just like, yeah, like this is a bridge or a hill we're gonna die on. This might not be a good time for everybody, but like this is important. But 9 times out of 10, what's gonna have a good time? Do that thing.
Yeah, that's the truth. So how many bands are you in?
Right now, we'll say 3 active, 4 like total. So, she is like my primary
Hmm.
project. That is my like primary creative output. And then following that in like levels of activity, it would be Baptize would probably be demonstrably the next most active. Playing shows, weekly practices, all that jazz, working on getting closer to recording. And then started playing about a year ago. The drummer for She and I, Tyler, um, he has wanted to have a death metal project for a long time. That's more his passion is death metal. That's what he listens to in his free time, loves death metal. And so he wanted to get a project going after he had exited Redivider, his old band, another great band. And so you got the shirt. The band
Yeah.
is fantastic. Loved Redivider, loved his time with them. And their new drummer is also fantastic. That band is absolute like strap a rocket on their ass and send them to the fucking moon because that band could do whatever they want. They're very good. But Tyler wanted to get a new death metal project going and needed a bass player, and that's the instrument that I'm most comfortable with is playing bass. And so we were talking, and he was like, "Yeah," he's like, "I think I could put up with you in another band." And I was like, let me challenge that. And so he has let me continue to show up week after week to come play bass for his death metal project Atrophic. And so that band is debuting live in September. I want to say it's oh golly, I can't remember the date of it, but it's in September. It's at Planet of the Tapes. Cell Intruder, another death metal band from here in Louisville, is opening it, and then Atavistic Decay from Indianapolis is going to be the like out of town band Sandwich Meat, and then Atrophic will headline that show. But it's a really fun time. It's like atmospheric, but like claustrophobic death metal. It's very angular. Um, it's not like Cannibal Corpse death metal. It's more like ulcerate death metal.
Okay.
So should be a lot of fun. I hope it goes over well with folks. Tyler is a very talented writer. This is basically his artistic vision is what Atrophic is doing.
Right on.
And I'm super stoked to be able to support that. And then the fourth band, which is like not like on hiatus, but just kind of like it exists in the ether, is Crown of Serpents, the black metal band, and that is the primary like emotional output of our other guitar player for she, Jace, is that's like his band. And so myself and Tyler play in that with Jace when we are called to, whenever the time comes for Crown to accept a show offer, we take it and we play. And it basically seems to end up being like 2 or 3 times a year, maybe. Just depends on what we're feeling. And so yeah, but that's again, that's kind of Jace's baby. And so we support that.
That's pretty awesome. You guys all have like your own, you know, this is my output. This is what I want to do. Like, okay,
Yeah.
let's fucking do it together, you know?
Yeah. Well, and you kind of have, I mean, I think that in a lot of what I harp on with the boys and try and hold myself accountable to is just being, authentic and honest with some of that, right? Like Tyler and I especially have talked at length about where our priorities lie, and the band has talked about this as well, like what what's most important to each of us in our musical lives as well as our broader lives. And I think like, anybody that's listening that's in a band has probably had this discussion. And if you haven't, you should sit down with your band members and have that potentially challenging discussion of where do I prioritize this band as far as things in my life? Like for me, work is honestly over the band. I have to pay my bills. And the
Yeah.
way I pay my bills is I go to work and I trade and exchange my labor for wages. And so if something comes up where I'm not going to be able to pay my bills, that's where I'm going to have to go prioritize. The band would be like second after that. And like above all of those things would be like my wife and our, animals. Like that's number one, is taking care of that. But that's like part of the work piece, right? Paying
Yeah.
the bills. So, and like some people, that's not the case. I know I've talked with other friends who have specifically said that like the most important thing in their life over their work, that pays the bills, over their partners, is their band.
Mm.
And that if it's like, oh, hey, we got offered this show that's really cool, but that's the same day as our anniversary, then we're playing a show. The anniversary can wait. And that's a decision you have to have and a discussion you have to have with your bandmate and your partners or whomever is involved. So
Yeah.
we've had those discussions internally about where our allegiances lie, and mine's like, yeah, like I prioritize she over Atrophic and Baptize and Crown of Serpents, and Tyler prioritizes Atrophic over she and Crown of Serpents. Um, and I'm sure that Steven Cachado from Baptize, he prioritizes Stagecoach Inferno over Baptize. And so, we've all had those discussions, and sometimes those things come up to a head, and that's just part of, being in a band, is being able to discuss and have frank discussions about that.
Yeah. I think that's that's a piece that a lot of people really miss, right? Or, you're right. You have to have those conversations because when it comes to a time where you're like, okay, both of these things have a thing. What do
Hmm.
we do?
Yep.
Um,
And
what,
you got to be willing, the not necessarily have to be willing, but like the person at that point, personality really starts to show, right? And so being comfortable with interacting with the people in your various projects, and or if you're uncomfortable with interacting or pushing back or holding your ground or acquiescing, however it needs to be, just being willing to know that and act accordingly, right? So,
yeah, for sure. So, um, man, we've talked a lot. I don't know, where did she come from?
oh man, what a question. So I it's kind of it's not a long story, but it's dumb. I was playing.
I like dumb stories.
It's
Just
a dumb story. Well, we'll start with the band name. The band name is purely just like nerd stupidity and like me in 2014 being like, I like anime and Japanese shit. And I took like 3 or 4 years of Japanese in high school. And like as with most people, you kind of are fascinated with Japan and shit like that. And
Mhm.
so I just had in my head that I wanted a band or a project to be named Shi, which is in Japanese would be like the root for death.
Mm,
So like you conjugate it accordingly. So Shinde to die, Shinimas, you know, has died or will die, Shinimasho, let's die, etc. So she is like the core word for death. And specifically that kanji in character is the death, because turns out that she also in Japanese means four, depending on how you're counting. Um, so all that is to say, so the name of the band is just Death in Japanese, and that's because I'm a nerd and have no foresight into the difficulties of search engine optimization and how hard it is to find the band SHI in a search engine as opposed to something like anything else like bong thrower or fucking
yeah,
wizard bastard. Any of those things would have been better. But nope. You get shiny toy guns, you get shine down, you get you get shit fire from Louisville as well. Another good band. That's a great band name because you're
yeah.
not going to find it anywhere else. Anyway,
No.
um,
Well,
the
think about crop though. With like you go to look
they
for crop and it's like you see corn and soy and
they're another hard one. I will give them that theirs is still better than ours because at least it's adjacent. She I don't know. She is challenging. I thought that we'd maybe be able to get it. You'll notice in all of our like on Facebook and on Spotify, it's she space hyphen space and then the kanji. And I was
Mhm.
like, I'll do that so that you can type in she space hyphen and it will come up. And sadly, nope, just
No.
doesn't. Or at least whenever we first started, it wasn't doing that. As we've gotten more and more plays, it's starting to work out. Anyway, all that is to say, bad SEO on my part. The foundation of the band, however, started kind of twofold. So initially, it was me and the drummer for this old band named Jeremy. And the band's name was Screams of the Sirens, Jeremy Wilczek. So they were this old like metalcore slash hardcore band. Um, and I don't remember how we linked up. I used to be in a deathcore band called Demise of the King. I don't think we ever played with Screams of the Sirens, and if we did, I don't recall it. But like, you know how bands you add each other and you kind of member circled social groups and such. And so somehow I ended up connecting with him and being like, hey man, like I'm trying to start a new project. I want to do like post black metal, but like riffy, like not funeral doom, but like adjacent. And I remembered I was like, I want to sound like Amen Ra, and specifically Amen Ra's Mass 4 album. And he was like, I love that. And so we got together, we started jamming, and then a buddy of his, Alan, came in and was playing bass, and the three of us kind of just jammed. And I was like, yeah, this is going to be my new project, She. And somewhere I have the recordings from it. They were not great. Um, but so we were jamming, and then it just kind of like fell apart as things do, you know.
Yeah.
You miss a couple weeks, and then we'll meet next week, and then next week comes and goes, and it just kind of fell apart. There was no like breakup. We just stopped getting together.
Yeah.
Um, and so fast forward like a couple months, and an old acquaintance of mine, the former vocalist for Demise of the King, who I replaced, Ed Borho, he messages me and he goes, "Hey man, I've got this band that I'm in called Fire of Hephaestus. We need a bass player. I remember that you played bass for the end part of Demise of the King. You're doing bass and vocals. Would you want to come play bass for my band Fire of Hephaestus?" I said, "Sure." Um, Tyler loves to point out and tell the story where I was supposed to come to a practice and then I forgot that I was going on my honeymoon. And so I told him, I was like, "Hey, I won't be there for the next 2 weeks." And so like 2 weeks go by and then I showed up, and apparently Tyler for those 2 weeks thought that I didn't exist. He was like, this guy Bob's gonna come show up for to play bass, but then he's never showing up. And does he even exist? Is he on his honeymoon forever? Anyway, so we finally get together. We jam and we play and we do some stuff, and it doesn't really go anywhere meaningful. We wrote some songs. I think we demoed one. We never played any shows. But while that band was kind of figuring out what we wanted to do, I remembered getting into like Sleep and Sleep's Dope Smoker album. And I was talking with Tyler before a practice at my house, and I was like, "Hey man, would you be interested in just like jamming some like Doom?" He goes, "Sure." And so we started getting together an hour before Fire of Hephaestus practice and just kind of jamming Stoner Doom. And then after enough time, he was like, I know a guy, Zach, who plays bass. We used to jam together. Would you want him to come jam with us? I said, sure. And so, fast forward that, and then, Fire of Hephaestus again also does the same thing. We're kind of like, one of the guys moved away, and we were like, this isn't really going anywhere. And the three of us, me, Tyler, and Zach, had been jamming for the hour beforehand. I was like, this is feeling more the direction I want to go. And so that's how she kind of came to be. And so the three of us wrote two more songs. I resurrected a song. Oh no, that wasn't yet. At some point, I resurrected one of the songs from the initial jam sessions with Jeremy and Alan. But yeah, we got together in 2015 is when we recorded our 3-song EP in my basement. We've recorded it live with Cliffy Madden of various bands, and and yeah, we put that out, and it wasn't not our best writing. But my wife really likes one song off of that, and she's like, "You guys should play that still." She's wrong, demonstrably, but hey, I guess no accounting for taste. But yeah, so that's where it kind of came from, was jamming for an hour before another band's practice, until we decided that other band wasn't going to work out, and so she became our like main thing. And then Jace joined in 2017, mostly because I was writing songs that I was like, man, a harmony would be really cool here, and I was trying to do them by myself, just playing like double stops
Yeah.
on the guitar, and it wasn't sounding right. And I asked the boys, like, "Do you know anybody that plays guitar?" And they both were like, "Well, we know this guy Jace." And so he showed up, and then he's been in the band ever since. And we've been very fortunate in that we're one of the few bands that I know of where the members have been consistent since day one, with the exception of adding Jace. So like,
Yeah.
never had any other drummers, bassists. We've all kind of knit together, which is very lucky for 4 dudes to have personalities that mesh that well for
And
this amount of time.
it's super rare because you're
Yeah.
right. Like, I feel like so many bands go through lineup changes, especially in like their infancy, you
Hmm.
know, because people are like, yeah, maybe just like you were saying, right? Maybe that's not the direction I really want to go. I want to go this
Yep.
way,
Or you're
you know?
just you're figuring it out, right? Or if you know a guy in passing, or you met him at the bar, and you're like, "Hey, I remember that guy. He said he played guitar," and he shows up, and you're like, "Yeah, no, this isn't it." We are very fortunate. I count myself very fortunate that we didn't have to have that challenge. We've had our growing pains for sure, especially as we got closer to like crystallizing our sound. But we've stuck it out, and we've had the discussions, and yeah, it's been really cool to have those dudes in my corner as far as like creative partners in the band.
Yeah. Yeah. That's always, it's great when you're like, man, it feels great to have these people right
Yeah.
with me.
It it is. I've been in bands where the other members, it's like I mean, you're all friendly and you're all friends in loose sense, but you know, there's not that extra connection. Whereas with She, there, I think that we've developed that extra level of connection among the four of us, which is super helpful and fulfilling.
Hell yeah. So you mentioned that you guys are getting ready to start recording.
Yeah, yeah. We it's a little bit of a not a long time coming. Time's relative, but our initial plan was we're gonna put out. We had a couple songs we'd written. We started playing them live, and I said, man, EPs are probably the way to go. We probably should just put out an EP. We've got 2.5 songs at that time. Let's just finish this one song. We'll write one more and then we'll put out a 4 song EP. And then we can figure out what we want to do for the album. We had tossed around the idea of doing a concept album. We couldn't agree on the concept. There's a lot of back and forth on that. That was definitely a testing our bonds for sure, was figuring out the plan for album 3. But so eventually we changed our mind, or I changed my mind. I said, okay, like we're spinning our wheels trying to figure out what to do. Let's just do an album. Well, we've got these 4 songs. We can write more. We don't need to have a concept. Let's just put out good songs on an album. And so we did. And so we we are admittedly being pretty aggressive with our planning and our timetables and all that. So the album is written. The album is demoed by ourselves, like pre-production, got click tracks, all that. We have our time in the studio booked. You'll hear it first. We're recording with Dave Shale. I don't know if it's Shale or Chale. I can't remember if it's a hard CH or not. Dave, we'll say Chale. Dave Chale from Deadbird Recording Studio. He did the Blind Scryer Controlled Burn EP, as well as the most recent Prayer Line stuff. He plays in Prayer Line as well, drums. And yeah, so we considered a whole bunch of options, and he's the one that won out. So we're going to record with him at the end of August. So yeah, again, the album's not recorded. It's pre-prod, it's demoed, but the actual album isn't recorded. So the plan is to record at end of August, and then we'll have it mixed and mastered during September, October. And then we have our album release show booked. The date is secured. It's at Magbar. It is on Friday, November 15th, right before holidays kick off. And most importantly, right before UPS peak. Because again, 2 of our guys are at UPS, and once peak hits, they disappear. And last year, that is when Tyler and I wrote a whole bunch of riffs and had stuff ready, and they came back after peak, and we're like, all right, here's some stuff. But yeah, so we've got the date booked. We've got our local support, or not, we've got one local support for the album release show, and we have one regional support for the album release show as well. I'm not going to tell you that yet because we haven't announced it, but the date is set. We'll probably announce the full show probably sometime next month. That'd be 2 to 3 months out, which is about whenever I like to announce details of shows if I can. But yeah, so save your date, jot it down in your schedule, in your ledger. Friday, November 15th at Magbar in Louisville, Kentucky. And I think people are going to really like the bands that we have joining us. They're not, neither of them are like doom bands.
Okay.
I kind of like mixing it up a little bit. We mixed it up a little bit at the last album release show, which is flyer is this one here with Bazooka Tooth from Nashville, who's like a hardcore punk band and good friends of ours and are fantastic. If you haven't listened to Bazooka Tooth, you're doing a disservice. Kingdom of Pain is a phenomenal EP, and they're working on a new EP or album. I don't know which, but they're working on new stuff. Great band. And then Prayer Line, who I'm sure you're familiar with,
Yeah.
opened that show. So again, like not bands that normally you'd be like, oh yeah, they play with a stoner doom band, but people seem to like them, and we had a good time. And that's what I really want to do, is just have a good time. And the bands that we've got for our show will be a good time. You will enjoy it. You'll have fun.
You will have fun.
Mandatory fun is expected. I'll include that on our flyer whenever we get that put out. I have to add it in there. The flyer is done. I'll just add that little text at the bottom. You will have fun. Fun
Just
is expected.
fun is expected.
Fun you
Mandatory.
you are expected to have fun.
You should do it in like a Slayer font. Mandatory fun.
Mandatory fun. Yeah. But yeah, so we've got 10, I think it's 10 songs in an interlude. It might be 11 songs in an interlude. I can't remember the number. They all at this point we've been rehearsing them, and so it's all a blur. But yeah, we've got 10 or 11 songs plus an interlude in there. So it'll be good. A little bit shorter songs this time, which is interesting. We by and large, I would say most of them are in that 3 minute average range, whereas in the last album was probably closer to the 4 to 5 minute range, which again for a stoner doom band is lightning
Yes.
speed.
Yeah. I was
But
gonna say it's still short.
yeah, yeah. But we're kind of taking that approach of like your leather lungs, right? Where it's about just kind of getting rowdy, getting in there and getting out. Or fucking, I mean, Weed Eater, like their shit is they get in, they play the riff, they do the thing, and they get out.
Yep.
And I really resonate with that kind of songwriting. I really resonate with not belaboring the point and just making your statement and moving on and continuing to have fun.
That's-
And that was kind of the approach with all the songs of this one was, what's the most fun? Are we going to have fun playing these songs? And I can say all of them I have fun playing. I know Tyler does not have fun playing at least one of them, but that's an issue of his own making. So we'll leave it at that. We'll leave it to you once the album is out. You can figure out which one he does not have fun playing.
Hell yeah. So let's touch on Holler of Doom.
Yeah, that's this weekend.
Yes. So this will come out after. So
So the people listening will be able to agree with us. Wow, what a great fucking
yeah,
time Holler of Doom was,
yeah.
right?
So
Yeah, man.
who
Holler's going to be really sick. I'm super looking forward to it.
who on that bill are you most forward looking to seeing?
Man, I haven't seen Crop honestly in a little bit. It's weird to say that, but like I just haven't seen him live probably since Legalize. Which yeah, that was only 3 months ago, but we were seeing them a decent amount. We were hanging out with them all the time. So I'm really stoked to see them. Obviously, our friends in Blind Scryer are dear friends. I haven't seen them in a long while. Getting to reconnect with Weed Demon, who we played with up in Columbus a while back, and we did one of our first weekend runs was Crop and Weed Demon for 3 or 4 nights in kind of the Ohio area. Um, yeah, man, like it's just going to be a good time. Karma Vultures coming up from Nashville. We've got a show with them that just got announced next month at Planet of the Tapes, so I'm excited to see them. We played with them at Springwater mm, maybe a year ago, maybe 2 years ago at this point, but it's been too long. Definitionally just too long
Yeah.
of a time to have gotten to see with them. And then obviously, man, Stormtoker, like the founders of the Feast. Though that band has gotten progressively better every time I've seen them, and with them adding in their keyboardist slash saxophonist, it just adds this whole nother flavor to it. And so
That
every
threw me
time
for a loop.
that they play and they're playing newer stuff that they've written with him as a part of it, it's just been so fun to see them grow and evolve and kind of focus and hone in. And you couldn't ask for a nicer group of dudes. Again, they're providing the back line for the weekend. Again, just exactly the way that you want to be treated as a band playing a festival, and the kind of thing that you want to reciprocate whenever you have them on your shows. So yeah, Stormtoker are some of the best dudes. Really stoked to get to see them again too.
Yeah, they were a lot of fun. The only time I've seen them is at Legalize, and it was so much fun watching them play, and I didn't really know what to expect. And when the sax came in, I was like,
Yeah. The first show that I saw them with the sax player, I'm pretty sure if it wasn't Metal Monday, it might have been a show at like Al's. It might have been Dave's birthday show. And I just remember like Dave telling me, he was like, "Yeah, man, we got this guy. He's gonna play keyboards." And I was like, "Cool." And then he's like, "And saxophone." And I go, "Huh?" Like question
yeah,
mark? And I was like, I'm sitting there like thinking about their songs. I'm like, where does the saxophone fit? And like, I was like, I don't know how that's gonna work. I don't know how they're gonna fit that in. And then they played. I'm like, oh shit, that's exactly how it should fit in. Yeah, he's phenomenal. Really stoked for the color and flavor that he brings to their songs, and the new stuff that they're writing with him has been really cool to see.
Hell yeah. Okay. That was some good Holler of Doom stuff. Now the big one, the one that this will be released in time for,
Yeah,
MagFest.
man, Magbar Music Fest. We got to play the inaugural one. I don't know if I have that flyer around. I might somewhere. If it's not up here, it's probably in the stack. I've got a stack of other ass flyers over here. Um, I probably have one of those Magbar Music Fest ones for the first year. Man, we've been very fortunate in that Magbar has always been kind of home base for us, and Mag is home base for a lot of Louisville bands. Um, they they were going to be our first show, but then oh no, sorry, they were our first show. Our first show was supposed to be at this record store, and then we got asked to go play at Magbar before it, and I was like, oh shit, well I guess our first show is moving up. But yeah, Magbar was our day one. Like that was the first show that we ever played was at Mag. Back when the arcade cabinets were still there in the back on the back wall by the patio exit.
Yep.
No stage. You set up your shit in front of a bunch of fucking arcade cabinets. We played there. We played when they moved the stage over to the side wall, which is now the load in by the street. All that. So um, to be able to be a part of Magbar Music Fest every year that they've had it has been truly an honor. Oh, hello, kitten. And so we, yeah, like they've asked us every year to be like, hey, do you guys want to play this? And every year we've said, we will do whatever you want us to do because you guys have treated us so well, and we want to make sure that we reciprocate that back to you.
Yeah.
So, so yeah, couldn't be more stoked to play another year that they have put together a pretty goddamn phenomenal lineup. Every year it's great, uh, and somehow every year tops the previous one. So our day, I not to be self-centered, but I think our Saturday day is the best one. But
Oh,
that's not to say any of the other days aren't good as well. They're all solid days.
I agree. I think all of them are good, but like Saturday, if I could cram all the bands I want to see into one day, it would be Saturday. Like,
Yeah. I I do kind of wish that the Hell You Say, who's playing on Thursday, if you're
oh,
not familiar with them,
yep.
they're fantastic. Really like them. And Doms is this like this rap duo. They're really cool and really interesting, and dug them. And honestly, Bungalow Betty is pretty fantastic. Just kind of like fun, like garage rock. We saw them, or I saw them last year at Magbar Fest, and then we got to see them um relatively recently at I want to say it was Port Castle. I think they played at, but yeah, fantastic band on Thursday, and Daddy Sisters on Friday, and Nowhere Fast. If you haven't caught Nowhere Fast, Seth from Magbar, just really fucking solid singer songwriter, just a rock band.
I
And
haven't seen Know You're Fast in probably close to 25 years.
dude, I saw them. I saw Nowhere Fast last year, and I was like, this is good. And then they just played a show that I was running sound at Mag for, and their drummer Rafa, just I was watching, like, holy shit. And like I don't know what happened, like everything was just clicking. And I was like, okay, this band is really good.
Yeah.
So yeah, get out and see Nowhere Fast the next chance you get, dear listener. And then obviously Saturday needs no explanation. It's stacked from top to bottom. Howling Giant closing out the night. Like you couldn't ask for a better final band. That band is probably one of the best active bands in our scene, let alone any scene. And I'd stand by that all day, every day. They are just masters of their craft, and also some of the like kindest
Yeah.
souls that you'll ever interact with.
You know,
Um,
the funniest thing with them, like I tried to listen to them prior to Legalize Lex, and it
mhm,
just, for whatever reason, the album didn't click with me.
mhm.
And then I see him at Legalize Lex, and it was like the gates just opened up like, oh
There it was. That's what you needed. You needed to just get bathed in
yeah.
the tones and bathed in the riffs and the soundscapes and such. Yeah. What a fantastic band. And another one that's been super kind and generous to us when they have no reason to be. They're like, who are we compared to what they're doing? And like there's there's certainly nothing that we can offer them in as a kind of a transactional piece,
You
but
know,
they've always been super cool to us, and I don't take that for granted.
you hear that a lot, like we can't offer anything, but at the end of the day, it's just being genuine and
Yeah.
authentic, right? That's
Oh
all
yeah.
anyone really wants.
Yeah. Yeah. Can't say enough. I could sit here all day and talk about how much I like and appreciate the Howling Giant boys. But and similarly, Isolation Tank Ensemble the next night,
Yeah.
headlining for Sunday. Another band that like watching them progress and kind of crystallize over the past however many years. It has to have been like 5 years. I was trying out for bass with them and played a few practices before realizing I was like, man, I really like this. I would really love to do it. I don't have the bandwidth to do it service though. Like I won't be able to commit to the level that you would need someone to commit. So I'm going to step back because I you guys should find someone that can do this.
Yeah.
Because these songs are great. And getting and having them have Rich be their bass player has been really cool because he brings such a unique ear from his experience in the hip hop and production world. Um, but yeah, and then some old acquaintances of mine, or old friends rather, and actually old bandmates, in Hypertensions from I think they're in Indianapolis now. They at one point they might have been Evansville. I can't remember, but they're just like again like really solid garage rock and band who do this really. We I saw them play at Mag maybe a couple months back. I hadn't gotten to catch them yet. I know they've been doing the thing for the last couple years as well. Um, but they've got some riffs and parts, and I'm just like, yeah, like y'all were listening to Soundgarden and went, what if we did that, but like twisted this piece? What if we changed this vibe from a Soundgarden riff and then had like this vocalist just fucking ripping over the top of it? And like, Cornell obviously is probably the greatest rock vocalist of all time, or at least in
He
that
definitely
discussion.
definitely ranks up there for sure.
And so, those are big shoes to fill if you're comparing something to a Soundgarden, and it's not quite apples to apples. Cornell, male vocalist, um, and I'm blanking on her name, but the vocalist for Banshee, a woman, but man, just fucking rips, rips at singing. And they're another band that's just like up there having fun, and that's honestly the thing that I vibe the most with is if you're a band that's having fun,
Yeah.
I'm gonna be way into it. And that's Faerie Ring on Saturday. Like
I've
of the bands that have fun, I remember watching them and I we're standing there watching and I messaged the She band thread. I said, we need to be like these guys. They're having a very good time.
yeah.
And so we rip that off as much as we can. Or at least I do.
And
I
those
When we're up there, I
those
go, what would Fairy Ring be doing right here? He'd be fucking surfing the cosmic waves. We should do that.
yeah, and they're all, again, like Fairy Ring are such nice dudes.
Kind,
Like
kind souls.
love chatting with them, love seeing them. I think the first time I saw them was I think it was with Paul Bearer at Portal.
Yeah, they did get on that show, didn't they? Yeah, what a great lineup and what a good band to have on that show too.
Hell yeah.
Solid booking on that part.
Yeah, I was so blown away. Like, I didn't know what to expect. I like bought the album just because I was
Hmm.
like, man, it looks fucking cool. I hope, and the art's cool. Like, I hope it's good.
Hmm.
And then they get up there and they play, and I was like, oh, I'm glad I bought this fucking album.
Yeah, they another band like that first record, super solid, dig it a lot. But Weary Traveler was my second most listened to album from last year, right behind the Howling Giant, Glass Future record.
Glass Future. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Weary Traveler's so great. I'm excited for what Fairy Ring have going on. Um, also Bad Wires is on Saturday too.
Oof, man, I'm so stoked that they're back at it. That band has had like the worst luck of any band I've ever met or played with. Like it's what, like every 6 months something happens, and it's like
Yeah.
fuck. Like they build up momentum. They were a lot like us, where COVID really put the kibosh on that initial album hype. I think we both were in that same boat of, we put out an album and we're like, and in our case at least, the album came out in January. I hadn't done the work to really get a release tour scheduled, and I was actively getting that done in February. And we were like, okay, we're wrapping shit up. We're looking to maybe go do this in April or May. And then, March of 2020 hits, and you're like, well, but what if you just didn't do anything for a while? And you're like, shit. And I'm pretty sure they were in the same boat, where they put out their album like mid March 2020, like right before everything fucking locked down. So
Yeah.
I'm really stoked to see that they've got, their new drummer situated. I think it's Andy, maybe.
It is
Um,
Andy, and
awesome.
I'm gonna tell you, I was at their like return show after Corey shattered his wrist.
Yeah.
Holy fuck, were they good?
Yeah. Love
Like
to hear that.
like
Love to
Andy,
hear that.
I feel like Andy fits so fucking well, and they just like they jammed so hard. What show that was with Child Bite?
Oh yeah, Portal, right?
Yeah,
Yeah, I'm really stoked to see them. I didn't get out to that one, so I'm really happy that we're playing on the same day as them. Not, or rather, just that they're playing the festival at all, because I would have seen them one of the other days. So
yeah,
yeah, I'm really stoked to get to see that. I have no doubt that they will crush it, because they are a band, again, of very solid dudes who understand the business. They understand what it's like and what it means to be in a band, and they take it seriously, and they have a good time doing it. And
yeah,
that's the kind of shit that I, again, try and emulate and learn from, and do on our part.
yeah. They fucking such good dudes. Again, just such good dudes, tremendous musicians, and it's shit. I just talked to Corey yesterday. Like I'm so excited to see. I'm really like I can't believe how excited I am for Saturday, because
Yeah.
it's I feel like from start to finish I'm gonna be fucking exhausted, you
Yeah,
know?
I'm running sound for some of the bands. We're trying to figure out the order and when people needed to come in and come out. And as I was like booking myself for running sound for which bands and when, I was like, damn, like I have to get up there and play a set. And then I'm like, I'm gonna need to just go sit away from things for a band. I'm like, fuck, I can't miss that band, but I really am gonna need to step away just to like decompress before having to get back and run sound and then
Yeah.
go back to play a set again. I was like, fuck, what am I doing to myself? But hey, it's all it all works out in the end, right?
Yeah, it will. It'll be a fantastic night. Um,
Mhm.
okay, I think that's about our time.
Hey man, thank you for making the offer and reaching out to have us sit down and chat. It's been a delight, and hopefully, um hopefully everybody has already made their plans. But if they haven't made their plans, they're making their plans while listening, to get out to the Magbar Music Fest
Yeah.
this weekend, the 18th, 19th, 20th, and 21st of July 2024. And if not then Friday, November 15th at Magbar for the
Mm-mm.
She Album 3 release show. The album
There.
title is picked, but you don't get to hear it yet. Sorry.
Ah, damn.
You'll get it soon enough. Give it us a month. Give us a month and we'll announce it.
So close. Yeah. No, I appreciate you taking time out of your night to
Yeah.
chat with me. I'm glad this really worked out. The conversation was fantastic. I learned a lot about you, which is always my goal. The band, I love the band. You guys have such a great fucking energy live, um, which is becoming more and more common, but it, it still makes you happy as shit when you get up there and just see the band kick ass. You're like, oh
Well,
yes,
like I said, I appreciate the kind words. We stole everything we know from better bands like Faerie Ring and Howling Giant and Bad Wires and Scryer and Redivider and Baptize and all of those ilk and Crop, and Storm Toker. So, you know, everything we do, we learned it from somebody else. So
Well, you know what they
appreciate
say,
it.
it's not research and development, it's rip off and duplicate.
Man, that I'm getting that tattooed on me.
Yeah,
That's the first tattoo right there.
hell yeah. Awesome. Well, Bob, have yourself a great night.
Hey, thank you, and you as well.
Thank you.